Hi everyone, welcome to this video where we'll be taking you through where we are in the increasing housing choices in neighborhood study. So the purpose of this video is to explain our study and the different housing options we're exploring. It will also take you through our team's process of creating the design concepts and floor plans. I just wanted to mention that the design concepts were based on Mississauga's context and housing affordability goals. And they're really meant to give us an idea of what could be possible in our neighborhoods. There are no recommendations at this point. The designs will be used as references to develop policies later this fall. So with that being said, let's get started to plan for more housing together. I want to give a bit of background about why we're doing this study. So in recent years, the province of Ontario has directed municipalities to permit two things. So the first thing was they are directing municipalities to permit 2 additional residential units on lots with a detached, semi-detached, or a row house. So what that could look like is a detached home with a basement apartment and then potentially a garden suite within the backyard. And then the second thing that the province has directed municipalities to permit is a range and mix of housing types such as duplexes and triplexes. So at the same time that the city was receiving this direction from the province, council also approved the city's first housing strategy called Making Room for the Middle, and this was approved in 2017, and it included actions to investigate low-rise housing options. So really through this study that launched last spring, we want to know how you think we could improve housing choices in Mississauga, and we were able to create some design concepts for you to take a look at and give us your feedback. Next slide, please. So within this housing study, we're looking at a few housing options, which you could see on your right. So we're looking at, one bucket of housing types called additional residential units, and that includes coach houses, garden suites, laneway suites, and garage conversions. And then at the same time, we're looking at plexes. So that could be, for example, a duplexes with 2 units or a triplex with 3 units. And then also a multiplex with usually about 4 to 10 units within the building. So taking these different housing options, as I mentioned, we created some design concepts, and we really created those concepts based on some engagements we did last year. And in those engagements, we heard a lot of feedback on balancing, having yard space on the lot. How would you be able to access the unit? Where would we be able to park? And then other things like how can we guarantee that there'll be privacy and independence if we were to allow these different housing options? So in the following slides, I'll provide more information on each of these design concepts and how we were able to approach designing them. Next slide, please. So just to start, Mississauga has a lot of different neighborhood types, but also residential lots. And we knew that to be efficient with testing some designs, we couldn't take all of those different lots and neighborhoods and test every design on them. So we started with 2 lot types. So the first lot type is an interior lot that's on the inside of a block, and it has a frontage of 50 feet and a depth of 118 feet. And then the second lot type that we tested on was a corner lot at the end of a block. And so with that one, it's a bit smaller and it has a frontage of 45 feet, but then the same depth of 118 feet. So one thing I'll just mention here is that we know these 2 lots, the main homes, the yards, streets, and trees don't look exactly like your neighborhood. There might be some differences, but also similarities. And it's really not meant to. Again, these lots are starting points for us to just start testing some designs. Next slide, please. So when we approach creating these designs on those 2 lots, we really looked at feedback from community engagements that I mentioned that happened last year, as well as an online survey. And at the same time, we looked at technical requirements within the Ontario Building Code and any things we had to consider in terms of fire and emergency requirements. So taking those two things together, the feedback that we got in the engagements and these technical building requirements, we really had to balance, what we heard in terms of there's a need for larger family size units, but at the same time, we want to be able to use the yard space and share it and be able to have enough green space on the lot. And then another example of what we had to balance was being able to, maintain privacy and independence, but at the same time have enough, windows and doors to be able to access sunlight and fresh air and the yard space around those living on the lot. So taking all those things together, what I'll be doing next is explaining some of the examples and the design concepts we were able to come up with. So I'll take us through 3 in particular, but in total, there are about 7 design concepts that we'll have posted on our engagement website. So next slide, please. So this is the first design concept that I'll be taking you through. So in front of you, what you see is on the left, a 3D rendering of a garden suite on an interior lot. And so on the right, it shows that, this is 2 stories and approximately 900 square feet. And within the floor plan, that is able to fit 2 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. So, the trade-off here was that we heard the need for larger family-sized units, and that's why we were trying to fit 2 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms on 900 square feet. But at the same time, we heard values for yard space and sharing the green space and having access to that. So instead of creating something like a 1-story, 900 square foot garden suite that would take up this entire backyard and not be able to give us enough yard space, we split that between 2 floors as an option. So this is an example of, balancing that and being able to look at some possibilities of a garden suite on an interior lot. Next slide, please. So this second example is showing a triplex on an interior lot. So this is where you're having about 3 units. So I'll just orient us a bit, but on the image to the left, you'll see that, the first unit is at the front, and then to get to the second unit, you would have to go on your right to the front door there, and then to get to the third unit, you'd have to go to the door on your left. So within this example, again, we heard feedback on the larger family size unit and being able to maintain some privacy and independence. And that's why on the floor plan on your right, you'll see that each unit in this triplex is about 1,300 square feet and has 2 stories, and is able to fit 3 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms. So, we're able to maintain that larger family size unit goal. And then also when we heard that there's a need for a bit more privacy and independence, in this design concept, one of the things we're testing is independent front doors. So you'll see that there's a front door here facing the street, and then the second and third individual doors on the right and left of the property. And so that, again, we're able to get some privacy and independence that way. But then the trade-off, of course, when designing this was looking at parking. So you'll see here at the front, if you're assuming just maybe an existing driveway that can fit 2 cars, that would mean with this triplex, 1 unit is left without a parking space. So now that's showing us other options to consider in terms of maybe it's looking at driveway widenings or street parking or not needing parking at all. So that's something that we're testing here. Next slide, please. So this last example is of a garage conversion on a corner lot. So we heard a lot within our community engagements, the need for accessible units. And actually, many people identified an opportunity to use garage conversions as the most accessible kind of unit. So when looking at this, what we did was we repurposed a typical, garage on a lot like this and converted it into a residential space. So we were able to get about 420 square feet, and that floor plan being able to fit one bedroom and one bathroom. And so with this one, the benefit is that we're able to incorporate accessible design standards, and look at those best practices. At the same time, the trade-off is that having repurposed this garage for a residential living space, it meant that, again, we're losing some parking opportunities within the garage itself. So then we have to ask ourselves bigger questions about where else could parking be accommodated on the lot. Next slide, please. So, I hope that helped walking you through the different trade-offs we had to make when creating these design concepts. Again, they're not recommendations, but what we want to be able to do is have you take a look at each of these design concepts, which I mentioned we have 7, and you can take a look at that through a survey. So what you can do if you have a smartphone is actually hold it up to this QR code and it'll take you directly to the survey. And it's going to ask you questions and get your feedback on what you think about each of these design concepts. If you don't have a smartphone, no worries. You can always visit our project website and access the survey through there. So we really want you to be able to reflect on the questions that we're asking about these design concepts and for you to decide where improvements could be made. We really value your feedback on those. Next slide, please. The other thing we'll mention is that, once you're done the survey, if you have additional questions, comments, or ideas on those design concepts, we actually have a tool called Conveyo, and it's really meant for you to look through those design concepts and add comments in real time of, what you think about them and any other things that the project team has missed. So with that being said, what I'm actually going to do is take you through Conveyo itself and show you how you're able to use it. But I'm just actually on the next slide, I'll point out that we do have instructions for how to use it here. But again, through this video, I'm just going to show you how to be able to use it. I'm just going to share my screen. So what I have in front of me here is the project website. So once you get to the project website, what you're going to do is scroll down and you should be able to see this Conveyo application here, and it's highlighted through this kind of green taskbar. And what you're going to have in front of you is the different designs, and you could scroll through them. So right now, it's on the garden suite design. And if you wanted to change it and look at the garage conversions or the plexes or the laneway suites, you're going to go up to this toolbar here, and you're just going to pick through the different options you want to take a look at. But right now, what I have in front of me is the garden suite that's on a corner lot. And, maybe I'm taking a look at it and I realize that I really like that there's the front entrance here and it's independent from the main home. And I want to be able to provide a comment on that. So what I'm going to do with my mouse here, you'll see that it has a plus sign with a speech bubble. I'm just going to click in front of the door and a comment box is going to pop up. And so with this comment box, actually, it's optional if you want to leave your name and your email. You don't have to do that. You can just go right away to add your comment. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to add my name and then my email. And then I'm going to go to my comment and I'm going to say, I really like how the front door is on its own on the side and separate from the main home. And after making that comment, you're going to go down here to this drop-down bar, and you're going to pick what kind of comment type is it. And so maybe I say that it's a suggestion because I'm, saying that I like the front door and please keep this idea. And then once I'm done, I'm just going to hit add comment, and you're going to see that it shows up here, but also I could read it immediately here. So what this actually means is that publicly people can see these comments and they can decide to thumbs up it or thumbs down, but then also on the back end, our project team actually gets these comments in real time. So again, this is Conveyo. Please feel free to use it if you have additional questions or comments that you'd like to make on these design concepts. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and go back to the main video and slides. And again, what I'll mention is that if, after you're watching the demonstration, you want to come back to some of the written instructions, it's here on the slide for you, but you can also always contact the project team to get help on being able to use the tool. So you might be wondering, after you look at all these design concepts and provide your feedback, how will it be used? So our project team will actually get all of the survey responses and the comments left on Conveyo, and we'll be taking that and reviewing all of them to understand, what you thought about the design concepts. And so once we take all of that together, we'll be balancing them just to be able to revise the design concepts. And we'll be doing that later this year. And once we're able to revise those design concepts and create some final designs, we'll actually be using them as references to develop policies. Because as I mentioned earlier, Mississauga has a lot of different residential lots and neighborhoods, and it's difficult to be able to design designs for all of these different contexts. So we're really using these prototypes or these references to be able to develop policies based on them. And that's how your feedback will be used. Next slide, please. I want to end this video by just, thanking you for taking an interest in this study and participating throughout this process. I do want to remind you that it's a continual process, and now we have design concepts we want to be able to test with you. There are no recommendations at this point. So with that being said, please be able to drop by the project website when you have some time to take the survey. It'll again take you through the different design concepts and ask very specific questions about what do you think about the yard space, parking, and privacy considerations. And then after you're done that, again, you have the option of using Conveyo to be able to comment directly on the design concepts. And then on this slide as well, we're just providing our project website again, and that's where you can go to be able to access the survey and Conveyo, as well as the project team's contact information should you have any questions or additional comments. So again, thank you for your time, and I'm looking forward to seeing your feedback.